Jackson?
Yep. Yes,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm as good as it gets. It's a lovely day in Winnipeg today. It's only about minus 58. Good day.
It belongs to a creature from outer space. It belongs to a creature from outer space. belongs to a creature from outer space.
No.
It belongs to a creature from outer space.
Well, I think they're all pretty above average. I would think with you hosting, of course they're all above average. Um, I don't think there is an average anymore. I think they're all great, and I think everybody that we have on is great. And I'm really thrilled with the guests we have lined up for today.
Uh, Larry on. Um, I don't know. You put me really, really on the spot there. I definitely have to think about it.
Yeah, that's one of those tough ones. I had to cheat too and use the Google thing. It is just a reminder: Kozlov, Fedosov, Larionov, Konstantinov, and Fedorov. So
Better
So
off.
next time someone catches that way. But anyway, welcome in, and we welcome in again former UND Fighting Hawk forward Jackson Keene and current Orlando Solar Bear. Welcome to the show. And Scott, you go back a long way with this young man. Fire away with the first question.
Yeah, he's been around my radar for a long time. Of course, I know his dad pretty well, and Jackson was an outstanding player here in Manitoba. How do you like the step up? Is it a big step from college hockey to professional hockey? No matter the level you're in at pro hockey, it's still a job, and everybody's fighting to get to the next level. Tell me about it.
Yeah, it's been fun so far. It's it's obviously a lot different. Not playing just weekend games. It's definitely been a little bit of a tough transition. We've played, I think, 14 games already in a short time. So, it's been fun, and it's a new experience kind of every day, something that you just kind of, I'm just going, off day by day, kind of just getting used to everything. And, I like it, and I'm really enjoying it so far.
So
Well, before
yesterday you had
COVID,
yeah, go ahead. Go, Scott.
Before COVID, Orlando was my second home.
Really?
And
Yeah,
I'll be there on
not a bad
I'll be there
spot.
on Wednesday of next week, getting back to Orlando. How do you like living in that town? Because the weather's a little nicer than it is in Grand Forks and Winnipeg.
Yeah, it's been nice. I think it was 75 today. I was sitting out by the pool on our day off. So, it's been fun. It's I do miss the Grand Forks weather, the Winnipeg weather, but yeah, it's definitely nice walking out of the rink every day in shorts and a t-shirt.
Well, you talk about that schedule. Yesterday on Thanksgiving Day, a 10 a.m. game. How do you wake up and get ready for that?
Yeah, it was interesting. I just basically woke up and had a quick bite to eat and went to the rink I think we left the house at 8 o'clock. So, it was nice. It was a quick game. It was a good game, and we had a nice Thanksgiving dinner as a team after. So, obviously it's American Thanksgiving, but I'm a dual citizen, so I guess I'll take it.
You have made a decision to play in the East Coast Hockey League. A lot of guys finish college or finish junior, and they get the ECHL offer, and they sometimes don't take it, rather go home. You have taken the opportunity to play at that level, and obviously guys are stepping up. Your teammate Tristan Langen is playing in Syracuse, another Manitoba kid who did the same thing, went to the East Coast League. Why did you make the decision? And tell me about your experience signing the contract and getting to where you are.
Well, I think there's a lot of guys that maybe try and stay away from the East Coast for whatever reason. And if you want to play pro hockey, I think it's a great start to wanting to build up, and whether you stay here for a couple of years and go to Europe or whatever it may be. I think it's great hockey. I think it gets a bad reputation, I think, a little bit, as being maybe just a tough grinder kind of league, but it's extremely skilled, and I'm very privileged to be in Orlando, and it's a great spot. And I think if anyone is considering it, I think it's a great spot to start your pro career, whether you stay here for a while or end up going up, whatever it may be. I'm enjoying my time here.
You are listening to Game On Hockey with Scott Taylor and Travis Dunn. Our guest is Jackson Keene. He's sitting in Orlando, Florida. He's rocking in North Dakota gear. University of Minnesota comes to town this weekend. How many times? I know they haven't played very often, even in your time at UND. But how many times did you play the Golden Gophers?
I only played them one game. I didn't play in Las Vegas my freshman year, and then I just played the one game on the weekend in Mariucci. So I was really looking forward to playing them at the Ralph, but I'm excited I have the day off to get to watch it here.
You are the guy who made a decision in your senior, or I think before your senior year, to allow other players to play in a game. Tell us the story of that for those who may have forgotten, and how you made that decision.
Well, I wasn't really planning on having to make any decision, I thought it was senior night, and one of the players who was a senior wasn't scheduled to play, and I think I was in the lineup, and I think it was kind of a no-brainer just to tell Brad that I thought he deserved it, and if it was the other way around, I would expect my teammates to do the same thing. So yeah, it was pretty cool, and I don't regret it at all. It was a good thing to see.
Over the course of your career, you had to fight for everything you got to get into the lineup. Obviously, never giving up, and I, as one who played JV hockey at University of North Dakota for 2 years, they don't have JV now, as you're well aware, but not the most exotic place to play the game of hockey. But you stuck it out, and you had great success in your senior year. Any regrets whatsoever of where you chose to go, how you chose to go there? Were there other opportunities to go to other universities where you could have perhaps played more?
No, I don't regret it at all. There was a few other options that I was looking at, but ultimately North Dakota was my number one choice since the day I walked into the Ralph. So no, I don't regret it at all. I enjoyed. I only had 3 years, but I enjoyed every second of it, and I miss it. I miss it a lot every day when I go to the rink here, and when being able to watch the games and all that stuff. I miss it a lot, and I don't regret for a second choosing North Dakota.
You grew up in a hockey household. Your dad has his jersey in the rafters of the Manitoba Moose at Canada Life Center here in Winnipeg. Tell me about your growing up and your experience, and your dad playing in the NHL and winning Stanley Cups. What was that like?
Yeah, it's very cool. I think at the time I didn't really realize how cool it was going to his games and that sort of thing. It just seemed normal, I guess, at the time, but definitely now playing pro and going through college and all that stuff, I definitely appreciate it a lot more. Being able to go back and hear stories from guys he played with and things like that, of the impact that I actually played against Derek Nesbitt, plays on Atlanta, and he played with my dad in Manitoba for a few years. So it was just a few days ago. So it's always cool seeing guys like that and kind of say to me how much of an impact he made on their careers, and it definitely just seems normal, like I said, but it's very cool now.
And also what's also normal is guys from UND signing professional contracts. Jasper Weatherby having wonderful success. As someone who was on the ice with him on a daily basis, he's signed with San Jose, I believe, and he's having a really great start to his NHL career. Signed late. It was a surprise signing, so late in August prior to the UND hockey season, of course. Could you have predicted how well he would have been doing at this point?
Well, I think you saw glimpses of it last year. Just his goal scoring ability and obviously being a big guy and a smart player. It's not really surprising. Maybe a little surprising, how he went right in and is doing such a good job. But he's doing awesome, and I've been watching a few of his games and stuff, so it's pretty cool to see the impact he's having in the NHL, and feels like it was almost yesterday. He was sitting in the dorms with us and that sort of thing. So it's really cool, and it's good for him.
Have you seen your game get better since you're playing pro?
I think so. It's a little different. You only play with 10 forwards is the rule in the East Coast. So we've been going through games where 8 and 9 for almost the entire game. So I'm playing a lot more than I did in college. That's nothing against coach staff or anything. That just we had great teams, and I wanted to be a part of great teams, whether that was a fourth line role or whatever it may be. But I'm getting a really good opportunity here, and with short number of guys and a lot of call ups here and there, I'm being relied on a lot, and I think it's just pushing me to work harder in different things, and also having that confidence to make plays and do all that sort of stuff. So it's been really fun, and like I said, there's lots of opportunity, and I'm just trying to make the most of it.
Is living in Orlando, living in the heat, a distraction? Play golf and then go to practice.
No, it's not too bad. The only thing I guess would be we share the rink with the Magic, and there's obviously lots of concerts and stuff. So It's hot in the rink and that sort of thing. So it's definitely something to get used to. But playing in this division, most of the teams are, in warm climates. So it hasn't bothered me much. It's a little weird now coming into December, but I enjoy it.
The one thing you play golf, right, Jackson?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. You've been to the golf center in Grand Forks?
I have. Yes.
Many times. I'm anticipating that
Yeah.
Mr. Leach
Yeah.
and those guys took good
A
care
few
of you.
times.
Well,
Yeah.
this segment's brought to you by the Golf Center in Grand Forks. Scott, every guy we've had on has bought clubs and equipment from the Golf Center in Grand Forks. Custom club fitting, Ping, PXG, Titleist, TaylorMade. Christmas is around the corner, so set up a gift card with these guys. They'll set your loved one up with a great set of clubs. I bought all my clubs there as well, by the way. They also have SkyTrack, so you can do some good practicing in that gymnasium, in that garage area. Instead of just whacking the ball into a screen, you get to actually play on golf courses, get your club head speed, all those things dialed in when you're ready for spring, which is, for us, right around the corner. For you, walk out the back door and you're already into spring or summer, actually, whatever it is in Orlando at this point. Stop into the Golf Center, 3001 South Columbia Road. Those people driving up the Grand Forks for the UND hockey game tonight, stop into the Golf Center first, pick up some clubs, 3001 South Columbia Road in Grand Forks, or call 701-775-0019. Brian Leach and the guys will take care of it. They took good care of you, didn't they? Didn't they, Jackson?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They're the best. Go ahead, Scott.
When you have a week together with the team, what's it like being with these guys? You've come from North Dakota where you knew everybody and you were in school with guys that you were close friends. Suddenly you're thrown into a professional team where a lot of the guys don't know each other. It's like a brand new opportunity. What's a week like for you in terms of practice and games, and what's the schedule like in the East Coast League?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, exactly. I didn't know. I guess the only guy I knew a little bit just playing against him was Tristan Langen, who played in Swan Valley. So it's definitely, a little bit of a learning curve, meeting all the guys and getting used to, coaches, philosophies and all that sort of thing. So on a normal, like, I guess now we're playing a lot of games. So this week, for example, we played yesterday afternoon or yesterday morning. So we'll have a day off today, but then we'll play Saturday, Sunday, Monday, all in Orlando. And so it's a lot of games. There's not as many practices, so it's definitely just, being able to keep your body and body right and do things well and take care of yourself. So I've enjoyed it, and it's definitely, I do miss the Friday, Saturday games. That's it. It's nice. It definitely makes games more exciting and stuff like that. So
And how many fans do you pack into your arena? Is it well attended?
yeah, it's very, very well attended. I think for East Coast team, some teams don't get many fans, but I think we've been kind of averaging like 7,000-8,000 a game, which is it's not the Ralph, but it's
nothing is the Ralph, is it?
Yeah, I'm starting to notice that there's not much like the Ralph. So
hey, Jackson, tell you what, there's not many like Jackson Keene out there. We sure appreciate you jumping on board. Great catching up on the Orlando Solar Bears season. We'll follow you through the course of the year, and we'll maybe do this as we get towards our spring when summer starts to make its appearance up in this neck of the woods. For Scott, we sure do appreciate you joining us on Game On, and we will keep in touch, my friend.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Jackson.
That's Jackson Keene, Orlando Solar Bear. Wow. Well, when we come back, it's our sponsored content. The Hockey Academy up there in Pilot Mound, Manitoba is our sponsored segment coming up with Rod Collins, and we'll take a quick break. When we come back, he's Scott. I'm Travis. He was Jackson Keene. You're listening to Game On 790 KFGO. from the Nillis Law Studio and broadcasting on the Mighty 790 KFJO. We're also live streaming on KFJO.com. We're also on YouTube Live, so you can see our beautiful faces right now. We're waving to the screen. We sure appreciate Jackson Keene jumping on board the Fighting Hawk, rocking his North Dakota gear and taking. I forgot to ask him, Scott, when exactly or how exactly he's taking in the game. He's going to watch it. Must be on NCHC.com, I guess, or whatever other venue there is to get viewing of UND hockey.
Well, the great thing about living in the United States is there's pretty much streaming of everything. You just have to find the delivery system to find it screened. And I expect that Jackson Keene pretty much had it from the start of this season lined up how he was going to watch every game.
And we go back to that story that you shared that he stepped out of the lineup volunteered to step out of the lineup. So a senior could be in his last game as a senior at the Ralph Engelstad Arena. That's a tremendous amount of character shown by a young man.
Yeah, and I think Brad Berry appreciated it as much as anybody did.
Yeah, made his job easy.
Because I know he talked about it for more than a week, and it was important to Coach Berry to have a player that would do that kind of thing. And I think Jackson knew where he stood in the program. I think he knew exactly what his role was going to be, and it was more important on that night that a player who had given so much to the university over 4 seasons have that opportunity to play that last game and be involved in senior night. I think that was just a class act by a class guy.
Absolutely. And our next guest stepping in from the Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy, Rod Collins. Rod, you turn your camera on. That'll be great. Then we can put you on the YouTube world and they can see your beautiful face along with Scott Taylor and Travis Dunn, the Mighty 790 KFJO. Again, also streaming on KFJO.com. For all those people that are driving up the Grand Forks for the UND hockey game, we welcome you on board as well. The weather's great for driving. Maybe tomorrow morning, not so great, but driving back up tomorrow, Scott, it's a steady line of cars, one after the other up the Grand Forks and back on a Friday and a Saturday. But when you throw the Gophers into it, the traffic gets maybe a little backed up.
Well, I remember it might have been the last game that Sally and I were there. I was in the press box and Jason Hajdu gave Sally a ticket. And it was so far up in the nosebleeds, so far away, that she was higher than I was in the press box. That doesn't happen very often.
No. Yeah, the press box is rather nice compared to the Winter Sports Center that I did my games in.
Yeah.
There were no facilities in that particular one, and we're above the student section where the facilities were. So you didn't dare use the facilities because you couldn't get through the lineup of people to get to it. So, that was back in the day.
No, it's a pretty class joint right now.
Yeah. And you covered a World Junior there as well, did you not?
I did. World Junior, World Under 18 Championship covered there. And got to watch Brett Howden, who is now with the Vegas Golden Knights, was with the New York Rangers, maybe play the best hockey of his career. And a Winnipegger was playing for Team Canada in that tournament. So, yeah, I had a lot of opportunity to be in that press box and see great hockey players. And look, anybody who hasn't been to the Ralph is missing something. You have to go. I don't know why. I guess it's because it's sold out. But if you're going to go to a game in the Ralph, it's going to be Minnesota and North Dakota, isn't it?
It is.
That's the one you want to be.
Have you been to a Gopher UND game?
Oh yeah, no, not for a few years, but yeah,
no, right, yeah.
It was phenomenal. It's just it's an atmosphere that I mean, there's only 3 or 4 places in the world that are like that, and I mean in any sport. Football stadiums are too big. I mean, it's great going to Vikings games when the games matter and they're playing Green Bay. That's spectacular. It's a wonderful experience. Yankee Stadium's a wonderful experience. But there's something about the Ralph and it's not just Minnesota. It's UMD is a big weekend.
Oh, yeah,
you play Minnesota Duluth, that's big stuff. The Gophers are probably number 1. Wisconsin is a phenomenal weekend that I saw years and years ago. So I think that there are a few opportunities in sport that are as exciting as a UND hockey game at the Ralph. Very few.
And we talked to Pat Micheletti. Had Pat Micheletti on the pregame show, of course, this leading up into the Gopher game tonight. Pat, by the way, listening to Tim Hennessy, the pregame show starts at 6:30. The way that college hockey, and this is Pat Micheletti's perception, and I think it's spot on. They need to figure a way to have the Penn States, the Ohio States play the NCHC teams more on a regular basis. UND, as we talked to Jackson Keene, he played the Gophers one time in the 3 years he was a varsity hockey player. That is not, in my opinion, acceptable. It should be on a more regular basis just because it just makes complete sense. But we know they always don't do things that make complete sense in hockey, do they?
Well, they wanted to create a Big Ten.
Right.
What do they got? A Big Seven now?
Yeah, something like that.
And one team isn't in the Big Ten in any other league.
It doesn't make sense.
They created kind of an odd thing by going with this Big Ten. Yeah, I'm old fashioned and I have trouble with change too, but I would very much like it to be the way it used to be when the WCHA and the NCHC and the smaller teams, quote unquote smaller teams, played with the bigger clubs.
Okay. Well, Rod Collins is having some issues getting hooked up on here, so what we're gonna do is this. Let's pitch a break. Oh, we got him. Oh, we can hear him. Okay. Well, we'll hear him. We won't see him. But we welcome Rod Collins. Hey, Rod, thanks for jumping on board and joining us on Game On.
Yeah,
with Scott and myself.
Yeah, maybe I missed
Hey,
just
that's
what
okay.
I was supposed to do to get on here, but I'm on here now.
Go ahead, Scott.
Rod, you've got games tonight, I understand?
Up here in Manitoba?
Yeah.
Yes. We have our U15s in Calgary. They played. They won. The girls won in Winnipeg this afternoon, and the boys play here tonight, the U17.
Well, it's hard for you to keep up with all that stuff. You got so much going on now. I remember when you had one team.
Yeah, well, just a minute. My assistant's trying to get me online here. Hold on.
Well, Scott, this is the fun part about this. This is live radio. We have fun. We're on YouTube Live. Please tune into that. We're also streaming on KFGO, so please join in with that as well. And we have a few glitches along the line. You know, us and I say old timers, you're very good at Zoom. I'm getting better at it. And Rod has been introduced to it. The changes that we've gone through in the last year and a half, or well, soon going on 2 years of COVID, has thrown some technology curveballs at us, hasn't it?
Well, I remember the FaceTime call that you and I had when we discussed doing the show via Zoom, and you looked at me like I was from another planet.
And you were.
And not believing it, that's the way to do it. But I had been doing radio out of Toronto for more than a year since COVID started, with this Zoom contraption that us old guys are being forced to use now. And it turned out to be great. It was great to not be on the phone, to be able to see your hosts, to be able to it's a big difference when you can see somebody's facial expressions when you're doing an interview with them.
Yeah.
When you know they're getting it or they're not getting it. It's really a lot nicer and it's a lot more fun. I think makes for better radio than just taking a phone call and you hope that the stuff you say is being listened to or interpreted the way that you had hoped. And the one thing about working on Zoom is that I know your thoughts in terms of an interview. And I also know that we have little signals here now when you want me to ask a question or you're going to ask a question. Yep. And it makes it so much easier. And I think it makes the programming better too. It's a big change, a big change for a lot of us old guys. But I think it's not just the way of the future. It is right now. It's the way that the business is going.
And guests that we had Eddie Belfour on a couple weeks ago. If you want to go see that interview, go to Game On, Travis Dunn and Scott Taylor on YouTube. You can watch Eddie Belfour talk about his favorite hockey team of all time, a guy that won the Stanley Cup, a guy that won a gold medal, as well as an NCAA championship in the Hockey Hall of Fame. You'll get his reaction to a question I asked. So I'm going to tease you with that, so please go on and watch that. Noelle Needham, who Rod knows, I'm sure, quite well, was on last week. Young lady from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, scouting for the the Toronto Maple Leafs, and her goal of being the first female GM in the National Hockey League, which I get a sense, Scott, that she's going to achieve that. So all these are on YouTube, so please take those in if you would. Good listening when you're driving down the highway and not wanting to listen to other radio, but the sound quality on this is much better. Rod, have you got things straightened out, or should we maybe?
No, I can. Let's just go with the conversation because I don't have things straightened out.
All right, well that's okay. That's
okay, Rod. You'll probably lose some people if I came on face-wise anyway. So,
well, the question I have, the question I have with you, Rod, is this. Sorry for walking over top of you there because I can't see your voice or see your face, so I walked on top, so I apologize. But that being said, Shattuck St. Mary's, you obviously spent time there. Is a lot of what you're putting together your dream of Pilot Mound Academy to be a mirror image potentially of a Shattuck situation? Oh, there you are. Hey, Rod.
Yeah. Yes and no. I guess I mean, that was a well-run program. I was there for 10 years. I was at Notre Dame for 8 years as well. And so we're trying to model, obviously, the education and hockey piece behind that. We aren't maybe as extravagant or as well known as them, but we offer more of a family atmosphere here in a small town, and we're quite proud of the kids that we're putting into junior hockey and university at the girls' side as well.
Well, people must know who you are because you started a U15 program from scratch, and you're not only icing a team, but icing a team that's winning from time to time for a first-year program. That's a big step. So obviously, the Pilot Mound name is bigger than perhaps you think it is.
Well, that could be. Pilot Mound's always been a very good hockey town. I grew up here playing hockey. We won provincial championships, and I know they won senior or intermediate championships. And there's been several players go out of here professionally, myself included. So, it has a bit of a name, and I think things were kind of dwindling around here. I got the idea once the new building was built here to bring it back here 6 or 7 years ago now, and we're expanding in 23 to a U18 team. And the U15 team that you mentioned, we're over half of them are 08s playing against 017s, and they're doing quite well. And believe me, we got some talented kids all the way through our program. And of course, our goal is to get those kids moving on to junior opportunities. And I'm a big college pusher as well, so I hope they take that route.
When you were at Shattuck, talk about some of the players that you had impacts on. We were there, I would say 10 years. Of course, that wouldn't have been a Zach Parise or Jonathan Taves, but some other names that we may have known about that you had a great impact, great relationships with.
Well, Zach was there, and Jonathan too.
Okay.
And his brother, of course, and not only just on the ice, off the ice. I think I had some impact on them at Sydney as well. Jack Johnson, Drew Stafford, on and on. But I think that a lot of the development of kids happens off the ice, behind closed doors a lot of times. And I remember my wife, who was a dorm parent there, baking bread every Tuesday for 90 boys, putting out peanut butter and jam. And Sydney was down there every Tuesday night helping her set up and slice bread. And those are important things. And he's even been in touch with her, saying his pregame meal is peanut butter, jam, and bread. So I guess he stayed by that tradition. But no, you think that you have a positive influence on, these are 15, 16, 17-year-old kids on their future. And I was very glad to be part of that program.
And then you decided as the Collins family to start this program in Pilot Mound. And basically it's a family program now, but it's been a family from the outset. Why did you make the decision to get this program underway?
Well, I talked it over with two of my brothers, and we could see the school was struggling a little bit, and the new arena wasn't being used to its full capacity. And we decided to invest in this. We're now putting up a building. I'm in the dining hall right now, as a matter of fact, and behind me, 8,500 square foot building is going up now. We start the concrete basement here next week, provided the weather stays good. And that's going to be a new dining, kitchen, lounge area with basement, full basement workout area, shooting area. And then on behind that, we'll be building 6 dorms that are attached to that front piece. So it's a $1 million+ project, and we're putting money into that out of our family because we really feel this is a go here, and it's great for hockey development. And so we're willing to risk those financial areas to make it happen.
Wow. And you talk about the growth of the Hockey Academy Hockey League in Canada. So you have a young woman or a young man from North Dakota, Minnesota. As far as and wide as this signal goes, of course, streaming on KFGO Live and on YouTube Live, the growth of the Hockey Academy world, something that I was not anywhere near. I mean, I'm a child of the 60s, of course. There weren't hockey academies back in those days. Do you anticipate there'll be more and more and more of these academies popping up all over the country, and kind of that is becoming the route to college, to the other professional ranks in the world?
Well, I guess you're speaking both sides of the border here. I think
Yeah.
in the Hockey
Yeah.
Canada side, they might put some limit on it, but I do
Okay.
think it is the way of the future. I mean, you're even paying a lot of money now to play AAA hockey, whereas this is going to be a 9-month on the ice project for kids every day on the ice, by the way, with the workouts and the development. And I think the numbers are starting to speak for themselves now. The number of kids that get drafted, for example, in the Western Hockey League, out of the Canadian Sports School League is quite high, very high. And so obviously the development's taking place. But then again, you look at financing, right, for parents to make this happen. So it pulls both sides. And actually at Shattuck, we were really the only academy west of the East, I'll put it, because there were so many down east. But, there are some popping up all over. And obviously BC in our league, and Alberta, Saskatchewan now another one, and possibly a third one next year. So it is growing, and I guess when you talk about it, is it the way of the future? Well, I don't want this to be a rich person's game by any means.
Right. No.
Well, if I live in a small town in North Dakota and I want to go to Pilot Mound, what's my best way to get in touch with you, General Manager?
Well, I've actually reached out to several North Dakota kids over the years here. We haven't been successful. They choose to play in Minot or Devil's Lake or Grand Forks Central or whatever. They get caught up in the high school type of thing. But then there are the odd ones that go to Shattuck and so on. But no, they can contact me or just check on our website, and I'd be glad to have them come in. And we're actually going to be running some camps this spring. Finally, after getting through with the COVID for the most part, being able to run camps and invite kids in. And I've got kids coming in on a regular basis right now for visits and skates with us, and I'll shadow them at school for a day, and they'll eat with the kids and do the on ice and the off ice activities. So we invite kids to come in and do that.
Well, Rod, it sounds like you got a busy evening going for you. We do appreciate you jumping on board. You're painting a great picture of why people should reach out to Pilot Mound. Again, small town living, but big time hockey. And if that's what your goal is in life, it sounds like the Pilot Mound Academy might be the right idea for you to give a call to. So with that, we'll say thank you for jumping on board with Scott and myself. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, well, we're going to talk the Russian Five. We'll test you. Who are the Russian Five? We'll give you all the answers with the author himself of the ESPN movie, the show, pardon me, on that, the book. Keith Gable will joining us after the break. You're listening to Game On the mighty 790 KFGO.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Rod.
I know.
Bye-bye. You fishing a lot?
Yes, I am. As a matter of fact,
How's
that's
Keith
why I live
Dave?
in northern Michigan.
Where are you now?
I'm in northern Michigan by Higgins Lake, Houghton Lake, right.
Yep.
You know how we do this? Right up about 80 miles from the bridge.
Outstanding.
It is
My
good.
buddy Reggie Leach from Manitoulin.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. A little bit north of me, yeah. How you doing, Scott?
I'm doing wonderfully well. I haven't seen you in 20 years.
I know, it's been a while.
I miss those
Good to see you.
days. We had
Yeah.
fun back in those days.
Yeah, we did. It was a different life than those poor bastards now having to cover that league. I wouldn't want my job that I had at the Free Press of the Dallas Morning News for anything. It's it's a terrible job now. But we were involved in the newspaper business in probably the best era in the history of newspapers. Don't you think? Oh, it was great. It was great.
It was tremendous. And it's funny, until the late 90s, I had great bosses.
Yeah.
And then everything got corporate.
Oh, yeah.
Everything got frighteningly corporate.
Yep.
And cuts and cuts and cuts and
Yep.
cuts.
Yeah.
But we went through a period of time in the 80s and 90s. It was wonderful.
really was. Yeah, I left the newspaper business in 2001. I got into academia, started teaching journalism and English. And did part-time stuff, little stuff here and there, but mostly taught. And I loved that. Working with young people in journalism, just getting started. I was advisor to the campus newspapers and stuff. So that was a lot of fun.
Well, we'll
teach them how to do it the right way.
Well, yeah. Not that they listen to you.
Exactly. Yeah, I hear you. They all want to conduct their interviews by email now or text.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I'm publishing a 200-page magazine 6 times a year on hockey. And we run it mostly with freelancers, almost entirely.
Yeah.
And I find myself using guys and females in their 50s and 60s more often than these kids.
Yeah, because they know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing. All the guys that got run out of the business, those are the people I use.
Right. Yep. Good. I have to. You have to find. Let me know how I can get a copy of those.
Have you got a pen handy?
Yeah.
GameOnHockey.ca.
Okay.
GameOnHockey.ca.
Yeah.
Just sign into the magazine. Just sign in, log in, get yourself to sign in, and it's free. What's your email address?
It's my name, keith.gave@gmail.com.
I'll send you an email tonight with a link for the latest edition.
Good, excellent, thanks.
Yeah, if there was any Manitoba hockey players in Northern Michigan, I guess there might be somebody in Northern Michigan.
Or Lake State. Make
yourself a quick $100.50 Canadian. It's like
sure.
$62 US.
I like the old hockey news check.
No, the old hockey news check. Yeah.
Yep.
We've got a smaller market.
Right.
But it's been fun. I don't miss newspapers at all. I broadcast baseball for
I saw that. Good deal, man.
And then they stopped doing it, and I retired, and now I'm just publishing a magazine. It's more fun than ever before. I've never had more fun than now.
Good for you.
No pressure.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah, well, and we're all doing well. And your book is sensational, and your movie is the documentary is
From the Nillis
thank you.
Law Studio, and let's get this one out of the way. Established in the 1900s, the Nillis Law Firm provides legal services in more than 10 areas of practice, including business and corporate law, estate planning, wills and trusts, probate, commercial litigation, adoption services, and real estate. A division of Nillis Law Firm is Northern Title, which provides complete closing and escrow services along with title insurance policies for all types of real estate transactions in North Dakota and Minnesota. Call Nillis Law Firm at 701-237-5544 or look them up on the World Wide Web at nillislaw.com. We appreciate them sponsoring the studio all Game On hockey season long, which goes into, somewhere in mid-April. We're just getting the start of winter, and so we got a long way to go. But with that, we have great guests to keep you warm on this day, and those driving up the Grand Forks for the big Gopher Hawks hockey game. We welcome you on board, and we hope you're enjoying the Game On experience, usually on Thursday nights, but on Friday due to the Thanksgiving weekend. And what I had for breakfast this morning, Scott, I had banana cream pie because it was Thanksgiving last night.
Yeah, well, remember, I'm married to an American, so we had Thanksgiving too.
I wasn't asked that question.
I'll be
Keith,
eating those sweet potatoes and stuffing for about 3 weeks.
And Keith, did you have a Thanksgiving morning breakfast after?
Absolutely, I did. I had a turkey sandwich for breakfast, of course.
There we go. Yeah, well, that's the flavor. And I also had a bunch of chippers, which Keith will get you introduced to someday. Chocolate-covered potato chips that only come from North Dakota. We got a pound of those for a guest that was stopped over for Thanksgiving. There's not many of the pounds left, and I have a sweet tooth. But anyway, Scott, we introduced Keith Gave, the Russian Five. Do your introduction, my friend.
Well, Keith Gave and I go back about 200 years. we were in the newspaper business when it was fun to be in the newspaper business back in the 1980s and 90s. And Keith and I got to know each other well when the Winnipeg Jets were not a bad hockey team, and the Jets and Red Wings would play in the old Norris division, the old black and blue division. And I remember the plane trips and the experiences back at the Joe, because there's no place like the Joe. And the old Winnipeg Arena was so much fun because you were right over the ice in that press box. And Keith covered the Detroit Red Wings, and I covered the Winnipeg Jets, and those were the days. But since then, you have told the story.
Can I interrupt you a second?
Yeah, sure can.
I had the pleasure and the sad duty, it really, maybe one of the saddest days I ever had in a long career in sports writing, to cover the last game at the Winnipeg Arena. Detroit and the Winnipeg Jets played us a great 6-game series, and the Wings beat them in Winnipeg in Game 6. And the game was over. The guys were shaking hands, and nobody was leaving the building. All I remember, my vision I had, because we're right over the stands, we could see everybody, and all I saw were people standing, crying, tears in their eyes. Everybody. It was the saddest day. It wasn't because the Winnipeg Jets just lost. It's because this was their last game, and they're leaving town. Oh, it was a horrible day for Winnipeg.
And fortunately, 15 years later, they came back, and it's never been happier since, at least until today, where it's not very happy up here today after a 7-1 loss to the Minnesota Wild. But those things happen. At least there's a team here again.
That's right.
And, I kind of wish you were back in the business, because we would see each other more often.
That's right.
You wrote a book based on your experience, and it was quite an experience. And it's something that I didn't know a lot of. Now, I knew you were involved with it, but I didn't know how much back in the day. So tell us the story of the Russian Five.
Well, nobody knew, Scott. I mean, just a handful of people knew my involvement. I had to keep it quiet, as you might appreciate, because I did something that really put me on ethical thin ice, covering the Red Wings. I started covering the Detroit Red Wings in 1985. 4 years later, they started drafting Russians. They had that great draft in '89. They drafted Hall of Famers in the 3rd and 4th round, Nick Lidstrom, then Sergei Fedorov, and then the 11th round, they drafted Vladimir Konstantinov. They almost drafted Pavel Bure in the 5th round, by the way. But anyways, they drafted these 2 Russian guys, and they wanted to get them out, help them defect, like they helped defect help Peter Klima defect out of Czechoslovakia in 1985. That was my first big story covering the Red Wings, was a defection of Peter Klima. Anyways, the Red Wings, Jim Lights, who is then the executive vice president of the Detroit Red Wings, and Mike and Marian Ilitch's son-in-law. Now he's president of the Dallas Stars, of course. But he called me a month after they drafted these 2 Russians. Jim, knowing my background, having been 6 years in the working for the NSA, the National Security Agency, as a Russian linguist, a job that I had in the military that kept me out of Vietnam, by the way. I spent 3 years in West Berlin, working in a spy station, basically keeping track of the bad guys on the other side of the Berlin Wall. Anyways, I'm out of the Army. I'm in the newspaper business. I'm covering the Detroit Red Wings. They start drafting Russians. Hey, we need a favor, Jim Lights says. And I said, what's that? He said, we need somebody to pass the message along to these 2 Russian guys that we want to help them defect, Sergei Fedorov and Vladimir Konstantinov. And I'm saying, no way, Jim. No, and there's no way I can do this, because if the Detroit Free Press editors ever found out, I could lose my job, and I don't want to do that. And he said, do you realize we're willing to pay a lot of money? And he was starting to offend me a little bit, but he did. I stopped listening at that point because I was kind of angry. But I do remember him mentioning 6 figures, which at that time, in the way we were paid, that's life-changing money, I'm telling you. Anyways, I said, Jim, absolutely not. There's no way I can do this. As much as I'd like to, I can't do it. And he said, okay, enough said. That's it. It's done and over. We kind of shook hands and left our lunch. And, I'm thinking about it, and I'm trying to find a way to do this, because as long as I spent in the spy business, I never had a really good, cool cloak and dagger assignment. And this is it, right? And I called him back a couple of days later, and I said, the gist of it, what he wanted me to do was to go to Helsinki, Finland, where the Soviet national team was having a training camp. They were playing some club teams, and use my NHL credentials as a Detroit newspaperman to gain access to the players, interview them in quotes, right? And while I'm interviewing them and so on, slip them the message that we want to, that the Red Wings are, want to help them defect and come play hockey in Detroit. And so I called him back a couple of days later, and I said, there might be a way we can do this. He said, how's that? I said, number one, I'm not going to take a dime of your money. I don't want anything. I'll pay, I'll cash in air miles. I'll go to Helsinki. I'll try and get an audience with these players. I'll do my best to pass along the messages on one condition. And he said, what's that? And I said, I want to be your first phone call when these guys come over here. I want the story first for my readers of the Free Press. I want to be the first to interview Sergei Fedorov when he gets over here. I want first access in all things Russian for my readers at the Detroit Free Press. And he said, deal. And about 10 days later, I was on my way to Helsinki. I was, in the way I justify this, and I explain it in the book as best I could, I was a beat guy making a deal with my sources. We do that all the time, and we used to, and I think it still happens today. Whether you come in politics or education or sports, whatever, beat writers make deals with sources every day. I will write this if you tell me that. I won't write this if you tell me. You know, we're always doing this. It's part of the give and take of the job, right? And so I made a deal with the source. Anyways, I went to Helsinki. I was able to meet these guys, you know, in a kind of a very tense moment. I was able to get them, you know, the messages to them and so on. And about 11 months later, I'm having dinner at my home in Dearborn, Michigan, and my phone rang. And, you know, Keith, and I said, yeah. I said, this is Jim Lights. I said, hi, Jim, how you doing? Again, it's like July 20th or something, July 22nd. And, you know, right out of the blue. And he said, I said, what's going on? He said, I'm on Mr. Ilitch's airplane coming back from Portland, Oregon. Guess who's sitting next to me? And I said, who would that be? And he said, Sergei Fedorov. I said, oh, great. I shoved my plate away. I grabbed my notebook, you know, and I started, you know, about 10 minutes of writing as fast as I could, interviewing, whatever, getting what I needed. I looked at my watch, and, you know, we're on deadline on the city desk, right back at the office in the newsroom. And I didn't even call my sports editor. I called the city editor. We're about, you know, 45 minutes away from the first deadline. And I said, you know, they're all, you know, you talk to busy editors at deadline time, you know, they're all busy. I said, what's going on page 1 tomorrow? He said, what do you care? Hockey doesn't start for 4 months. And I said, whatever you got on page 1 right now, I'm going to blow it out of the water. And he said, what's that? I said, there's a Russian Soviet defector on his way, who just defected from the Goodwill games. He's in Mike Ilitch's airplane coming to Detroit to play hockey for the Detroit Red Wings. And there was a long pause. And he said, you got 35 minutes. Hung up the phone. And I got my laptop out and started typing my tush off, you know. 35 minutes later, I hit the button and sent it off to the Free Press. The next morning, about 6:15 in the morning, back in the good old days when the newspaper landed on your doorstep every morning, 7 days a week. I heard the newspaper land. I ran downstairs and grabbed it, pulled it out of the plastic, and there it was, page 1 above the fold. You know, Russian defector on his way to Detroit to play hockey for the Red Wings. And that's how the Russian 5 got started.
And we're I tell you what, this, we can go on for hours here. What we're going to do, I'm going to keep you through a break here. Scott, we're going to have to carry this conversation. David Christian will be joining us probably after the 7 o'clock, top of the 7 o'clock. I'll introduce you, Keith. Maybe you can write a book on Dave Christian and his family as well.
That's a story too. You betcha.
The Portland story was really something.
Pardon me?
That Portland story was really something.
Yeah, and of course that was Ted Turner and his Goodwill games, right? And who's the Larry, the guy with the suspenders, who did the interview show? Larry, very famous interviewer on CNN. Larry King, yeah. He mispronounced both of Sergei's first and last name for about a couple hours. I mean, they were second to report this story. We had it first. Yeah, it was pretty fun. Are we at a pause for something?
It belongs to a creature from outer space.
I lost his audio.
I did not hear him at the end. No, I lost his audio too. Yeah. There was a red X by his name in the corner.
64 years into a terrifying future.
This is great. That was just
Only my wife, myself, Jim Leitch, Jim Devlano, Mike Illich, really just a handful of people knew about my involvement. And really nobody knew at the Free Press where I worked until this book was published.
Is that right?
Nobody knew about it. Yeah. And I was nervous as hell, I'll tell you. But the Free Press couldn't have been more generous. Really. The Free Press has a film festival, Detroit Free Press Film Festival. And our documentary film led in 2018 was the feature, the main attraction of the film fest that year. They were all over it. It was good.
It's a great dog.
It turned out okay, didn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good. The Konstantinov stuff.
Well, the Konstantinov stuff, that's where the documentary, I think, if I'd had my way, it'd been a 4-hour box office bomb. Because I kept losing arguments, all this good stuff that most of it's in the book, not all of it, but most of it. But the Konstantinov stuff, we didn't have enough of that. How he faked cancer to get over to get out of the military, first of all, to come over and play. It was really, it was remarkable what he had to go through to get over here. And then to have the limo accident happen. It's sickening.
Where was he sitting in the limo?
In the back. When it hit the tree, he flew forward. And hit the partition from between the driver and the part of the limo where, yes, it is. He and the Musur, Sergei Manatsakanov, both had catastrophic injuries. Just terrible. And Vladdy today is he can walk with a walker, okay. He can print his initials. He can't sign his name, but he can print initials in English and in Russian. He's doing that to raise money to continue his care. The Michigan insurance laws have changed, and they're worried that he's not going to be able to get the care that he needs going forward. What's happening here in Michigan is just awful. There's a big money grab by the insurance companies right now, and they don't want to pay for those people who were catastrophically injured. They're going to pay 55 cents on a dollar, and he's not going to get the kind of care that he needs. And if he winds up in a nursing home, what do? They dope him up or strap him down, and he's not going to survive that. So, yeah, it's sad, really sad.
Well, life's good.
Oh yeah, real good. Actually, I'm working on another couple of books. Actually, I had a lot of good stuff left over that I couldn't get in the book or the documentary, and I'm compiling that, putting that all together in kind of almost a sequel to the Russian Five. I'm calling it Vlad the Impaler. Because everybody's got Vladdy stories. It's full of Vladdy stories, right? And what I'm doing, Scott, is I'm donating a bulk of the proceeds to the trust fund that's been set up for his care. and they're trying to do what, I mean, books don't make a hell of a lot of money, but
No, not anymore.
it'll make a couple of bucks and it'll help. It might help out a little bit, but and then I'm writing another one. Do you know Tim Rapley? Another writer who's written a book about Hobie Baker and Jack Parker out in the East Coast. He and I are writing a book right now. We're neck deep into it. We should have a manuscript done in the springtime about the 1998 the inaugural women's ice hockey tournament at the inaugural games, where the Americans upset Team Canada for the gold medal. Cami Granato and that team. We're writing a book about that, calling it A Miracle of Their Own.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, and that's going to be that's a really good project. That story's got legs. It's going to be good.
I just finished the book on the greatest untold story to speak in the soccer.
Oh, way to go! Oh, that's good.
Reggie Leach and Jamie Leach.
Yeah.
All the data for Brady Keeper is playing now. Seth Jarvis, who's setting the world on fire in Carolina.
Yeah. Oh, good.
So it was so popular. Second one of that.
Nice. Outstanding. Good deal. Those are fun to do, aren't they?
Yeah, and it's fun to do all the year.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
There's 360.
Wow. That's a book.
But see, in Canada, it's all government.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's part of the Truth and Reconciliation that they went through.
Right. That's right.
Yes. 87 is to promote everything after.
Right.
So
that's
From
great.
Millis Law Studio, broadcasting on the mighty 790 KFGO. We welcome aboard all those people driving up the Grand Forks for the Gophers versus the Hawks. We're talking Kozlov, Fedosov, Larionov, Konstantinov, and okay, I messed this one up. Well, anyway, Keith Gable straighten us out on that. Keith, carry on the conversation. Obviously, the five players, and David Christian will be on here in a few minutes and probably ruse the day that those five guys came into the National Hockey League. And Dave, maybe he can be unmuted and he can join into this conversation. Keith wrote the book, The Russian Five, and David had a few run-ins with those guys as well. But carry on the story of how your involvement in that got them to the United States.
Well, as I think I finished with Sergei coming over here in 89 or 90, actually. 2 days later, I was sitting across from him having a conversation with him, this good-looking, almost 20-year-old kid, cut like an Adonis, and, couldn't wait to see him skate. And, of course, we did see him skate. He turned out to be not a bad player, right? Sergei Fedorov, not a bad player. And then a year later, Vladimir Konstantinov, his tremendous fight to get out of the army, he had a 25-year contract with the Soviet Red Army. He needed to get out of the army. So what did he do before he could even begin to defect or leave the country without permission? Otherwise, he'd be he would be charged as a criminal for going AWOL as a traitor. He faked cancer. And the way he did that was the Detroit Red Wings had an operative, a guy named Valery Matveyev, who helped Sergei, by the way, make his contacts come over. But Valery said, went to Jim Lights and said, I think I have a plan. I'm going to need some money. How much do you need, Valery? He said, I need about $30,000. I have to work with some doctors. And he worked with some doctors. He spread around some of Mike Ilitch's money. And these three doctors diagnosed an inoperable sarcoma, brain tumor, or not a brain tumor, but cancer of some kind that we couldn't fix. He's going to die. You might as well let him out of the army. And they were going to do that, except Valery Gushin, the general manager of Red Army, wanted a second opinion, so he sent him to the Soviet Red Army hospital to see more doctors. Valery Matveyev came back to Jim Lights and said, I'm going to need a little bit more money, and also I need a car. And he said, what do you mean you need a car? He said, one of the doctors that I'm working with wants the biggest American car they make. And so Lights gave him another 30 grand to spread money around and went out and bought a big old Chevy Impala, the biggest car on the market, shipped it over there, never saw it again, but bribed these three more doctors. Vladdy eventually got released from the army. A couple days later, he was on a train going to Budapest, Hungary, where Jim Lights met him with Mike Ilitch's airplane and took him, brought him back to Detroit to join Sergei Fedorov. And now you get two of the five. A year later, Slava Kozlov shows up. Then Scotty Bowman comes along, makes a couple of deals. He trades a third-round pick for an old defenseman sitting in the press box in New Jersey, a guy named Slava Fetisov, and brought him in. And then 6 months later, he trades a 50-goal scorer in Ray Shepard to San Jose for a guy scoring 12 or 15 goals a year, an old centerman named Igor Larionov. Everybody thought he had lost his marbles. And it brings Larionov in. Larionov, of course, is key to the ball game. Got the center between the two wingers. Now they can move Sergei to a wing. You got two of the best defensemen that Russia's ever produced in Fetisov and Konstantinov. And now you have a whole different Detroit Red Wings team. And frankly, a whole different NHL. And Dave could probably speak to this better than I can. Changed the way the game was played in the NHL. Everything was puck possession, puck possession, puck possession.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, it certainly did. Led to a lot of changes, and they were those five. They were a special group, certainly to play against. Definitely a big challenge. But yeah, you said puck possession. Yeah, many stories of some of the long after the fact. Some of the games where the five of them would be on the ice for a power play. And have a lead in the game and just hang on to the puck for the whole 2 minutes, not even worried about scoring a goal or whatnot. Yeah, a whole different game they played.
I left Detroit to go to work for Dallas, the Dallas Morning News, and Ken Hitchcock was down there, and I covered that team that won in '99 also. And Ken used to say, we used to hate to play the Detroit Red Wings because they never let us have the puck. We spent the entire game chasing the puck.
Exactly.
And it was a different game then. Of course, it's much different now even, but it was fun to watch. That's for sure.
And you talk about 1 degree of separation. You are listening to a controlled mayhem here with David Christian. Brock Nelson's, I now describe him as Brock Nelson's uncle. You're not Dave Christian anymore. He's Brock Nelson's uncle. And Keith Gave, author of the Russian Five. 1 degree of separation. Tim Madigan covered UND hockey for the Dakota Student back in the day. He worked at the Dallas Morning News as well. Did you know Tim Madigan?
I knew. I don't think we crossed paths, but I certainly know of him and his byline for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Currently, one of the top 10 New York Times bestseller book, The Burning, as well as wrote a book on Mr. Rogers. Keith, been an awful lot of pleasure having you. Can we do this again? Because there's a whole lot more backstory to this whole Russian Five. Would you not agree, Scott?
Well, yeah, because there is going to be a sequel coming.
Oh.
And I'm looking forward to reading that one as well. So I want a little insight into what the sequel is going to be about. So yeah, this is really exciting. We've got to talk about how Fedorov got out of Portland. That's a good story too. So there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, sure. Now I'd be happy to come back. You need to talk with Dave now, but I appreciate you having me. I look forward to talking again.
Go ahead, Dave. You got a question?
Yeah, we wanted to hear chapter 1.
We'll do that. We'll bring David on for that next one as well. Keith, thanks so much. Really appreciate it. We'll have you on again soon.
My pleasure, guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Keith.
That's Keith Gave. If you're driving to Grand Forks right now, you're going, wait a minute, I got to drive up to Winnipeg because I want to hear the rest of the story and chapter 1. But Keith's out the door, and in the door comes, obviously, a very familiar voice, David Christian. Go ahead, Scott. You probably have a few questions for this young man.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was in the rink the night that he decided to score a goal in his first game in the National Hockey League. That was a long time ago. It's you're Winnipeg for what, 4 seasons? I think 4, as I recall.
Yeah, I think my first deal played out 3 years, 3 seasons, 3 full seasons. Part of the fourth, right at the end of that year of 79-80.
It's always the goal scorers, though, that get all the glory. I'm so tired of the goal scorers, right, David? I mean, come on. The defenseman, of course, you played defense in the Olympics, so you are a lot smarter than you look.
Well, that's a whole nother thing. That all those teammates on the with that Olympic team, when Brooks moved back to D, they those other defensemen on the team, every forward on that team looked at them and go, well, holy cow, if you can move a forward back there and play D, it can't be that tough a position.
It's been a long time, but I still have to ask you again about the miracle. Tell us that story. What was it like? Was the movie close to being the truth, or what's the real story of the miracle?
Oh man, one of the miracles maybe was when it was all over in that medal ceremony when we got all 20 guys on the top of that podium. That probably was a miracle in itself. The other thing I think was a miracle maybe was just how it captured the United States, how it you didn't have to be a hockey fan or whatever, and it just kind of rallied the country. And it was, coming at a time, it's hard to remember now, 42 years ago, but it wasn't a great morale in the United States as a country. And it kind of was a rallying point. It was a positive memory that people have held on to for many, 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 many years. And we would hear stories once that Olympics was over and we had moved on and we all went our separate ways, which probably was the opposite of them. We knew that the end of that season was coming. We knew there was going to be a final game. We knew there was going to be it would be over. But when guys started, so we play the final game against Finland, beat Finland, win the gold medal, have the medal ceremony. They hand out medals. We go into the locker room and they collect all the medals again. And we're like, oh, wait, hold on. You're like, what do you mean? We got to hand them back in. But they had them all engraved and we got them the next morning. We went to the White House, the whole Olympic contingent, U.S. contingent, went to the White House and met President Carter. And it was during that luncheon that guys started being pulled aside saying, hey, you got to catch your flight. You're headed back to Boston. Hey, you guys are going to Minneapolis. And it was over. And it was abrupt, even though you're waiting for it and it's coming. It was certainly abrupt.
That is the voice of David Christian, gold medalist, Brock Nelson's uncle, along with Scott Taylor on Game On, the mighty 790 KFGO. David, I've attempted to have this conversation with your father and your sister Deb on the other show, which, by the way, is tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock around the rink. We'll be joining Scott and I. That we'll talk about the Winnipeg Jets and the Minnesota Wild, we can talk about that too, David. But I wanted to have Deb on to get her perspective because she was in the stands during that game, and she said, "I can't talk about it. All I do is cry." And your dad was exactly the same way. It's just too much emotion. This is 42 years later, and the emotion that it brings out in people, especially your family, is so palpable. How do you explain that?
I don't know if there is an explanation. I feel very, much the same way in talking about that. And when you start to talk about the family that was there for that final game, throughout for all the games, close family, and then in the final game, having more family there. So, yeah, it is. It's an emotional topic, and yeah, the tears of happiness and joy well up for sure.
But it was a long grind for you too, without playing games in anger, because you were playing games to set up the tournament, right? Everything was kind of an exhibition game, and practices, I suppose, under Herb Brooks were pretty tough. It was a long grind for you just to get to the Olympic Games themselves. I don't, not so much a grind, but just a phenomenal experience with a group of guys that you just love to be around. And they were all intelligent. They all had, we were all competitive in different ways. And I think that was, I've heard it said by some player that had played for Herb Brooks prior to,
those years back, he played for Herb in the 70s, and he goes, Herb really knew how to pack a lunch when he put a team together. And I was like, oh, okay, I need more. He goes, well, you can't pack a lunch with just bread. You need some meat. You need some, some cookies and some chips, and put some fruit in there. Like, you need everything. You need all the components, and that's the one thing that he was able to do is he really did celebrate the uniqueness of players and the different backgrounds and different ways of playing the game and different strength. He put together, all kinds of different players. The one thing I think that we all had in common was that competitive edge. And some of it, they were a little more boisterous with it. Some of guys were a little quietly competitive, but in the end, it kind of worked and it all fit. And we grew up, we were rivals, and throughout that year, that exhibition year that you talked about, like, there were heated rivalries amongst that team, but it was, there wasn't a big turning point or something that we can point to. It just kind of evolved and fairly quickly together, where Brooks should remind just he made himself the common enemy. He was the guy that everybody was focused on hating at times.
And David, as we talked about the rivalry thing, absolutely. Not only rivalries from a college perspective, Warroad Roseau, as big a rivalry as you can get, as you're well aware. Back to those wars, Wisconsin, UND, Wisconsin Golden Gophers 79, slap shot into an open net 4 feet away from it to clinch the WCHA championship. You weren't very well liked with the Minnesota Golden Gophers after you did that little foray into scoring a goal with a slap shot from 4 feet and an empty net.
No, it still comes up when we do get together. They still mention that. They go, what?
Hard to believe.
I know. It was like, we wanted to kill you. We hated you for doing. Why? We hated you for doing that. You couldn't just slide the fuck. You just had to rub it in. You just couldn't just slide it in the net.
They would have done the same thing, though, right, Dave? They were the Gophers.
I would think so.
Yeah,
absolutely. I would definitely think so. Yeah, that
the
was
rivalries you talked about, though, in the motion picture that I think everybody has seen. Any hockey fan has seen the movie. Was there that huge rivalry between Massachusetts and the Upper Midwest? Did it exist at that time?
I think the rivalry was focused on the BU Gopher Series 70. What would it have been, 76, 75?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
In Denver, when they had a bench clearing altercation. Ricky Mahar, and the Boston guys would say that our trainer, Gary Smith, was the instigator of the whole thing, because there was no partitions between the benches, and allegedly he was squirting a water bottle on Mahar, and as he sat in the penalty benches were between the players' boxes, and the Gopher players would say no, Mahar started the whole thing. But that was kind of somewhat of a carryover. In the movie, it resulted in a altercation and a fight between O'Callahan and McClanahan on the ice during practice, but that didn't happen. It easily could have happened. There was that animosity at the very beginning, but it didn't in real life. That did not happen. But the movie did portray it. The things and events that happened in the movie, yeah, they did take place.
Tell us about leaving that team and ending up with the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah.
That was, the draft in the year of 79, 79 draft was delayed because of the Olympic tryouts for Canada, the U.S., that they had delayed the draft, and I'd been drafted by the Jets. I can't even remember. Maybe it's 78.
It would have been 78, David.
It would have been 78, and they delayed the draft that year. But so it was really never in my mind. I knew that I wasn't going to turn pro right when I was drafted. That I was going to stay another year at North Dakota and play. And at that point, it was looking like I'd have the opportunity to try out for the Olympic team. Then played that year, and in the 2 years at North Dakota, I certainly prepared. Was great preparation for the pro game. I think that's how it was viewed. And that's kind of was Coach Gasparini's outlook and the way that he approached the game. It was you were treated as like a professional and very it was serious and come to the rink and do your job. And I think it was great preparation for turning pro. But once I went through that exhibition game and exhibition season and through that Olympics and everything, I just felt like I could not go back to school. I had taken, the game was a whole new level of game with that Olympics. And I just felt like I needed to move on and turn pro with the Jets.
Well, and I think that was a wise decision because Gino would have put you back on the point, and I would have been on the bench for a whole lot longer, David. So, we knew that was coming. So I'm glad that Gino didn't figure that part out. Hey, Dave, you know what? This time always goes quickly. There's so many more questions we like to ask. This is a thrill as always. We were a teammate way back in our UND days. Wish we could have beat the Golden Gophers that year, and you could have an NCAA championship with a gold medal. Either way, you didn't lose. You got a gold medal. If you would have stayed, you would have won a national championship. So you've been a winner all the way around.
That's great memories, like losing to the Gophers in the old Olympia and NCAA final game, 79, and then being there in Providence when you won it the next year. So right after the Olympics, I had turned pro, happened to be playing in Boston, and the championship that year was in Providence. So I made the drive over, and I was there when you won it in 80.
Great memories, David, and you make great memories every time you come on the show. And whenever we ask, I really sincerely appreciate it. Scott, I know, appreciates it as well. We'll do this again maybe as we get towards the Olympics in February in Beijing, correct? So maybe we can come on. You could be an analyst for us, a game-on analyst from Minneapolis and St. Paul.
Sounds good. Sounds great.
All right,
love
David.
to be here.
All right, say your goodbyes, Mr. Scott Taylor.
Well, thank you, David Christian. I appreciate it. We never even got into your Jets career, and we'll do that next time too.
That sounds fabulous.
That's a 3 or 4 show series right in itself. Thanks, David, for joining us. Give our best to your family and Lisa, and we'll talk to you soon.
Very good. Thank you, Travis.
You got it. That's a great David Christian, gold medal, 1980. But you know what? A great person on top of it. Well, Scott, 1 minute left to go. We got to wrap it up and say goodbye to all those people driving up the Grand Forks. Enjoy the Gopher game. I'm predicting I'm going to do a mini Ditka 400-2 for the Fighting Hawks. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, if it's half as good as the 7-1 Minnesota Wild win, it'll be a great night in Grand Forks.
We will discuss that tomorrow morning on Around the Rink at 9 a.m. A couple of good guests, Tyler Klein, high school hockey, Tim Scarperud, Red River hockey. And, of course, Scott Taylor and I will talk. And we got that Hockey Night in Canada theme in the background. With that, I'm going to go home and eat some more of those wonderful leftovers from Thanksgiving. You do the same for my producer, Derek Hansen, and Paulie Alliance, who's been helping us out with the YouTube thing. For Scott Taylor, you've been listening to Game On. Do this every Thursday. It's a great time. Please join us from the Nilles Law Studios. Good night.